So we saw that Batman vs. Superman show last night, and Randy and I were talking about how it was a big disappointment. But it has a lot of social aspects to it. What stands out to me is the amount of destruction that takes place in all these superhero movies. April 2nd, Bakersfield Rocks and Fox at the majestic Fox Theater here in Bakersfield, California. Aviators, Kings of Carnage, are all military metal band. Very good friends of mine, Art Machuca, Il Tiempo, and Edema. I was at the Slayer concert last night handing out flyers, and the main reaction I got from people was like, oh wow, oh shit, Edema's coming back. Yeah, so back in November, I worked over at Wounded Heroes Fund as a work study. I was actually their first work study that they had over there, and now I think there's up to like maybe 6 or 7. I was approached in November. I was hosting their podcast, Overwatch podcast, with some of the guys over there, and I was asked to kind of help be the middleman between Wounded Heroes Fund and Bakersfield Rocks the Fox. Shortly thereafter, I left Wounded Heroes Fund and started doing my own thing, which is here in my home studio for the Chadman and Randy Show. One of my good friends, Randy, stepped in, and Tony still wanted me on, so I went from being the veteran Wounded Heroes Fund liaison to just the veteran liaison. Yeah, so I met Randy probably back in 2005. I was in the Army, coming home on leave a lot, just spending my time on leave, driving around town, hanging out, doing whatever, listening to the Jazz McKay Show, local AM radio, and I met Randy through a chat room, and we hit it off, became really good friends, and we've always had this similar interest in music, pop culture, current events, whatever. We have similar beliefs, except in baseball. He's an Angels fan, which I don't know, whatever. But what's cool is that as I went in the Army, I spent 13 years in the infantry, did a few deployments, came back, wanted to get into radio, still talking to Randy, a close friend of mine, and we decided after I was doing Overwatch podcast with Wounded Heroes Fund that we would start our own show. And that's how the Chadman and Randy Show got, I guess, created. And 2 months later, we're doing way better than we thought we would. And it's an honor to have him next to me doing this because we counter each other very well. And I'm here today just doing this podcast. We talk about everything. Life, death, everything in between. Pop culture, movies, video games, news. Name it, we'll talk about it. And we'll talk about controversial stuff and go deep. And we won't hold back because that's what free speech is all about. So I spent 13 years in the Airborne Infantry. For a long time, that was me. That was who I was. August 2012, got back to my last deployment, and I went from watching one of my soldiers die to standing in Best Buy buying a TV within 40 days. And for whatever reason, that particular deployment took a huge toll on me, and I found myself a year and a half later medically discharged from the Army, not knowing what to do with my life, severe case of PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and just kind of confused on where I was going to go. For the longest time, I relied on Sergeant Garcia defining me, and that was who I was. That's all I knew. So I started the podcast, and this is me now. This is what I do. This is my therapy. Coming in here with Randy, talking about whatever. I mean, half the time we don't even know what we're going to talk about, but we feed off each other so well that I could be having a bad day, just ups and downs, and come in here in the studio, leave the studio, and feel completely, I guess, not healed, but feeling better. And this is my new therapy. Somebody recently just told me that this is my new battleground, but I would like to see it as this is my therapy. This is where I come to get my zen and kind of talk about things. And podcasting to me is what jumping out of airplanes with semi-automatic rifles used to be, and that's who I am now. This is Chadman here for the Chadman and Randy Show. See you April 2nd at Bakersfield Rocks the Fox. Look for me and Randy walking around. Kings of Carnage, all military metal band. I'll be introducing them. See you then.